Hi, my name is Wes, and I work here at NaNoWriMo as the customer service captain. So if you've ever sent in a ticket, then I'm probably the one who's answered it. My writing routine is pretty random, it feels like, where inspiration can come at any time, and so I just need to make sure that I have my notebook. I keep a separate small notebook that I just carry around with me all the time. I write it during class when I should be taking notes. I write it, I've jumped out of the shower with my hair still shampooed and I've written stuff in the notebook then, so I just try to get as much inspiration there so that when I find the time to dedicate an hour to actually sitting down and writing, I don't have to worry about having inspiration because I have it all there in my notebook.
Where's your notebook right now?
I think it's actually seriously left in my bathroom. I don't actually know. Yeah. Keep track of your notebook. I haven't totally ironed out my camp project yet, but I am planning on working on a comic graphic novel thing. I'm not entirely sure how long it's going to be. But when you're working on something like that, I think the most important thing to remember is that it's still a story. And something that happens a lot is I can get caught up in the art and I can get so focused on the illustrations that I forget, I'm trying to use the illustrations to communicate a story and a message. So that's the most important thing, is to write as though you're writing a story and let the art supplement that and, work harmoniously with that. It kind of depends on how you want to work. I like to write it in a loose, semi-narrative format. I don't really write it like a script. I know some people do it that way. So I'll write something like, it doesn't even have to sound pretty, something like, Taylor goes into the woods. It's dark and ominous. Taylor is small compared to the trees. Then Taylor says, "Oh no." So it doesn't have to, it really just needs to serve as a guide for you while you're drawing and creating later. The other thing to remember is that you should really limit the dialogue as much as possible because it takes up a lot of room on the page, and that's not really what people want to be focusing on. They want to look at your amazing artwork. When you actually get to the point that you're doing the art, and you can do this sort of while you're writing the story too, is to do thumbnails. Thumbnails. It's so important because it takes no time at all. A thumbnail is just like a tiny little sketch where you're working out the composition of whatever you're doing. So while you're doing that, it's important to remember that you want to use the same dimensions. So if you will eventually be drawing on an 8x12, then you want to make sure your thumbnail is going to be 2x3 or something like that. So just make sure that the dimensions are the same, and then you can sketch a million different thumbnails in no time at all and really get a feel for how you want the composition to look. Those are my tips. When you're actually doing this on the campsite and setting your goal, we do have a pages option, so you can set your goal in pages instead of words, which is super helpful for graphic novelists. And if you're not quite sure how many pages it's going to be, you can change your goal midway through the month. You don't have to commit to a single goal and have that be the only one. You can adjust it as you get a feel for your project. My novel! Okay, so since I haven't totally ironed out my novel, do I get to write a novel about being stranded in the woods?
Ooh.
Like a how-to guide?
Clever.
If it's just my rough draft and I really hate it, I can just like tear it up and use it as fire kindling. No, I wouldn't do that. I'd be too lonely. Just read it over and over. This will be like my Wilson. Yeah.